Hey everybody, Hake Hardware here, and in this video we are going to do a live demo of getting my 780M to work with ComfyUI using the Zluda repo. So I am starting from a totally fresh installation of Windows. This system is a GMK Tech K12. So if we check out the system here, we've got a AMD Ryzen 7 H255 with a Radeon 780M graphics, 5600 MTs for our 32 gigabytes of RAM. And then I have 16 gigabytes of that dedicated to the 780M graphics. It doesn't really matter. It's a BIOS setting that you can do, but it really will use whatever system RAM it needs to because the 780M shares system RAM. So it doesn't have any dedicated RAM itself, but it is sharing the 32 gigabytes that is installed. And this is DDR5 5600. And the first thing we need to do is let's bring up our guide here. So if I go to docs, see if I can get this keyboard to work here. Here we go. Docs.localhake.com. On the left-hand side here, there's let me get this a little bit larger, ComfyUI with Zluda AMD 780M. And actually, I had a different workflow to set up it for the 680M, but I'm thinking maybe this guide will work on the 680M and like dedicated GPUs like the 9060 XT. So I'm going to be testing that out next, and I'll update the guide if we can just use one unified guide for all of the different GPUs. That'd be great. If not, I'll make a separate guide for each of the AMD GPUs. I don't have an 890M, and I don't have like the new Strix Halo GPU either, so or CPU with the integrated GPU. So I won't be able to make guides for those unless I somehow happen upon those systems. But for now, I can do the 680M, 780M, and then I have a 9060 XT that I can test out with these guides. So with the guide open, just note I've got some affiliate links here. It's a great way to support the channel. If you were to click them and purchase something, I get a commission. The other way that you can help out is just subscribe, like the video if it's helpful, and that just kind of motivates me to keep making videos. And I can tell my wife, hey, I got all these subscribers, so let me spend a little bit more time making some videos. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is using this Zluda ComfyUI repo from PatientX, which is a fork of the ComfyUI. And this basically just has AMD support. So Windows only version of ComfyUI, which uses Zluda to get better performance with AMD GPUs. Now, I have no idea how this works. This is amazing that somebody made this repo. It looks to be fairly up to date. Everything has been working. One note that I want to get out of the way right away is that you are going to have to whitelist or exclude a folder from Windows Security, and there's just a little note on that here. So as far as I can tell, there's nothing malicious with this repo. It's open source-ish, I guess, as it can be. And so just keep that in mind. We're going to go over how to do that in this guide. But this is going to be the repo that we're going to be cloning, but there's a bunch of steps that you have to do ahead of the installation of this, and it got a little confusing for me when I first did it. I totally messed it up like 3 or 4 times, and then I finally got it right, so I decided to make a guide and add it into my documentation here. So what you're going to need, right now this guide is specifically for a 780M, Windows 11, I guess 10, it probably works fine. Haven't tested on 10. You're going to want at least 16 gigabytes of RAM because you are going to be sharing that with your 780M, and there's not going to be a whole lot you can do with less than that. And then 20 gigabytes of storage, and then the models are like, there's some that are like 1 gigabyte, some that are like 20 gigabytes. So you're just going to have a variable amount. I'd recommend at least like a 512 gigabyte NVMe drive. These are some things to keep in mind. These are all things that I messed up when I tried to install things, and if you don't do it this way, you're going to have issues. So first, we're going to be using the command prompt, not PowerShell. We're going to be cloning this repo to the root of the C drive. Now, if you have like 2 drives and you want to clone it to the root of another drive, that's fine. but it's best to not use nested directories. Don't use your like user drive. And again, we're going to go over all this in the guide, but these are just things that I'm calling out right away in the beginning because I really don't want anyone to run into these issues. You also have to have Python 3.11.9 specifically. I tried to do it with 3.14, total major pain in the butt. It was also the Microsoft version of it that you get from the Microsoft Store that also doesn't work. So we'll go over this, but just calling it out now. You will need to exclude that directory from, it's not Windows Defender, I should change that, it's Windows Security. And then just make sure you're really careful when you're copying over some required libraries, and there's a DLL file that you need to copy over. Those need to go in the right directories. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. This will all be called out again when we actually get into those various steps. And you will need to reboot your computer at some point, so just be prepared for that. And you should be good. So the first thing, I don't even have drivers installed for this yet. So I'm going to go to the AMD page, and I'm just going to grab these Windows drivers right here, download that, and we will get that installation started as soon as it's completed from downloading. Going to select yes. You're going to have that prompt a lot where it asks, if it's okay for the device or the app to modify your device. You're always going to click yes. And then we will just let this thing do its thing. Some of this I'll speed up or skip just so you don't have to wait and watch things like install very slowly. There's some things in here, I'd say set aside like an hour of your time to do this because some of it does take a little while. So I'm going to accept and express install just with the defaults here. And depending on how long this is, I'm going to either speed it up or cut it out and bring you back when it's done. All right, looks like it has finished. I am just going to uncheck. I'll leave this one checked to keep it up to date and click close. Looks like slight glitch. I'm doing this over remote desktop, so I think just installing the drivers made it glitch for a moment there, but we can go ahead and close that. And so we went through, and all the steps again are just like right here. Next, we're going to install the HIP drivers. So we finished up the AMD drivers. We're going to install HIP drivers. So we need to go to the AMD HIP SDK. And there's two versions that look very similar, 6.2.4 and 6.4.2. We want 6.4.2. So I'm going to download the HIP SDK here. You're going to have to accept the license, and then it'll download. It's a pretty big file. Again, it's all shown here in the guide, step by step, what you need to do. You're going to get that allow this app to make changes to your device thing again when we start the installation. So we're just waiting for this to download. Looks like 1.5 gigabytes, and let's get this thing going here. We can close out of this web. Whoop. Well, maybe didn't start. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it took a second to pop up here. We'll go ahead and click yes. And these are the HIP SDK drivers, I guess. Again, I don't really know exactly what we're doing here. I just know the exact steps that I need to take to get it done. It looks like AMD HIP SDK installer. So we're going to go ahead and let that go through, leave all the defaults here, and just click install. Okay, we are finished here. Installation complete. Go ahead and finish. And we can just close out of that. I don't need it. Back to the docs here. So we went and we did the installation complete. Now we need to check some environmental variables. And what we're going to do is down here in the search bar, we're just going to type system and find the one that says edit the system environmental variables. We'll click this button here, environmental variables. And then we need to make sure HIP path and HIP path 64 are here, and they are. They should be pointing to the 6.4 folder here. And then we also need to add a path to our path. So up here at the top, there's a path variable. You're going to click edit. And then if you go back to the guide, you'll see this is what you need to, oh, there's an extra apostrophe. I'm going to have to remove that. But you want to make sure it goes to not just the ROCm 6.4, but the bin folder. So I'll need to make sure I fix that little extra apostrophe at the end there. Whoops. We actually want to go to here and we'll click new and then we'll just paste that in. And it should, again, no apostrophe or anything. If I should remember to move that hopefully. And then we'll just click OK. And you can see if you were to click edit again, it's in there. So you're good. And it has to have that /bin. So it's slightly different than the HIP path down here. We'll just click OK. And we'll just click OK to dismiss those things. And we will just keep on moving. So this is where we're going to be replacing the ROCm library files. So we just installed a bunch of library files with that HIP SDK. And we're going to go to another repo here, this like, love, want. And they have some ROCm libraries, which we need. And we specifically need the 1103 for the 780M. And the reason I know that, if we go back to this repo, the patient X repo, if you click the down arrow, these are the original instructions, which I'm so thankful that this person created this repo, but the instructions are like really hard to follow. If you look, I have a 780M, it says it's a GFX 1103. So if you have like a 680, that's the GFX 1035. So if you're trying this out for another GPU, just make sure you get the one for you. Down here, we're going to do the 1103. So I'm just going to click that and we're going to download that. It's a 7-zip file, but if you open it up, right click, extract all, you can just extract it through Windows. And you're going to see there's two things in here. There's a library folder and a rocblast.dll. Now, we need to, let's just in another tab here, we're going to go to this PC. Basically, you're trying to get to your C drive, so if you have a better way of doing that, that's fine. I usually go to this PC, then C drive. You're going to go to Program Files, AMD, ROCm 6.4, and then you're going to go to Bin, and then Rock Blast. I'm not sure if that's the correct way of pronouncing that, ROCblas. And you're going to rename the existing library as library, library backup. And you're going to need to hit continue because this is like a protected folder. And then you're going to Control C to copy it, or just, right click, copy, and then right click, paste. And again, you'll have to do continue. And that is now like the patched library files basically that you're going to be using. And if you go back one or up one folder, you're going to be in the bin folder. And you're going to go back over to here and grab that rockblast.dll, and you can right click, copy, and then you don't want to do it like into one of these folders by accident. So I typically like over in this empty space, I right click and do paste, and you are going to want to replace the file and then hit continue again. And then now you have the patched DLL file, and we can go ahead and close these. We're not going to need to deal with any of this stuff again. And let's go back to our instructions. We did all of these things here. Now we need to install Python 3.11.9. And this is actually pretty easy if you do it the right way. So first, let's get to the Python download page. At the bottom here, there's going to be a Windows installer 64-bit. Click that. You're going to download it. You can click the open folder thing here and just double click. But the key thing is we do customize installation. You leave all the default optionals selected, click next, add Python to environmental variables. And this is going to basically make sure that it's using 3.11.9 as its like main Python version. So we'll click install. You'll have to click yes, and that will install. It kind of moves into the background, but if you see the toolbar down here, you can find it again. It's going to go ahead and do all the installation. And one thing I'll do while we're waiting is if we do add and remove programs, you'll see probably, I think, I actually don't have Python 3.14 installed. So maybe if you have another version of Python installed, you might need to uninstall it. But the main thing is you have to make sure that this is using 3.11.9 when you actually get to the installation. So luckily, I didn't have any other version of Python installed. If you do, you may have to uninstall those versions. And you cannot install 3.11.9 through Microsoft Store. You have to do it directly from the Python website. I'm going to go ahead and click Disable Length Limit as well. And we'll just click Yes again, and then we can close. All right, so that's Python. That could be a tough step. I might add like a comment to this video and pin it of like how you can check to make sure. I think one method here would be if we open up our command prompt, you might be able to type like pi, yeah, like pi dash dash version, and you should get like Python 3.11.9 if you're doing it right. So that's one way you can check. Okay, we go through all the Python installation instructions. Okay, now we need to install Git. So let's go to the Git website. You can just click this top link here, click here to download. You'll click that. There's a lot of options and menu options here. You'll select yes as usual. There's a lot of options here, but you pretty much are selecting the defaults the whole way through. So next, 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 next. You get the picture. If you already have Git SCM, that's fine. There's nothing special we do with this installation. If you want to learn more about Git, and maybe there are some specific options, like we chose Vim for the default editor. If you have VS Code installed, you probably want to use that. But for our purposes, this is going to be sufficient. So we'll just go ahead and let that install. And what this is going to be used for is we're actually going to, so Python, we downloaded that because that's actually like how ComfyUI gets set up. It uses Python, and then Git is how we are going to clone the repo. So we can just uncheck View Release Notes and click Finish. All right, Git was pretty straightforward here. Now we need Install Visual Studio Build Tools. So we'll go ahead and click this link, and it's actually just going to download the .exe file. You can kind of inspect it. It's going to aka.ms, which is a legit website. VS17 release vsbuildtools.exe. You could probably just search Visual Build Tools if you don't want to trust my link here, and we'll just click it. We'll click yes as usual. All these things pretty much have to use admin privileges. We'll click continue here. There's going to be a little download and then a little installer. I think you're just like installing the installer. Okay. You can basically skip everything and just click install. It's going to have what you need already selected out of the box. Okay. Now you can just click X up here to exit out of there. Boom, boom, boom. All right, now we are actually going to get into the ComfyUI Zluda installation, but first you need to restart your PC. So start, boom, restart. Okay, should be good. Let me get remote desktop connected again. All right, we did our reboot. Let's get our docs back up. So docs, localhake.com, Zluda, and we were on installing ComfyUI Zluda. Okay, so this is an important part. You need to open the command prompt, not PowerShell. So a lot of times, like if you right click and you do terminal, you're opening up Windows PowerShell. So if it says Windows PowerShell, you did the wrong thing. The best way, my experience, is type in CMD and then make sure you're clicking command prompt. Now we are in the command prompt here. And what we're going to want to do is navigate to the root. Remember, we said we want to install to the root of the C drive. So cd c:/, and now we're at the root. And now we want to use our git to clone the Zluda repo. So we'll copy that, and then we will, if you just right click with your mouse, it pastes it in there. And then you can click enter. And this should be pretty quick, but it may vary depending on your internet connection. Okay, now that we've cloned the repo, we have to whitelist before we do anything else, or exclude. So if you search security, you'll see Windows security. Open that up. We want to go to virus and threat protection. Under the section here for virus and threat protection settings. Click Manage Settings, scroll all the way to the bottom, add or remove exclusions, and then, of course, hit Yes. Add an exclusion. You're doing a folder. As usual, I start at this PC, C drive, and then you'll select ComfyUI-Zluda, select folder, and you should see it show up here. At this point, it's saved, it's good to go. You can exit out of that, and we will continue on with the instructions. So if we bring up the command prompt, you didn't need to get out of it, but you can cd into the ComfyUI Zluda, and we will hit enter here. Okay, and now we can just do the installation. So make sure there's an install-n.bat. So we can just copy that, and we can right click to paste it, and it'll start the installation. Now this can take a little while because there's some big files. There's a lot of things that it needs to do. So we're just going to let this run through, and it's going to automatically open ComfyUI once it's been installed. So your browser will pop up, and ComfyUI will be available. So just hang tight, and I'll bring you back in a second. All right, it is just finishing up now. You can see it did detect the AMD Radeon 780M, which is extremely important. If you don't get that, likely there's an issue. For the 680M, it actually didn't say the graphics card. It just said like integrated AMD graphics or like AMD graphics or something. It didn't actually specify the GPU. You can see it's detecting the dedicated system RAM for the GPU as 16 gigabytes. Again, it doesn't really matter. All right, here we go. Everything is looking good. It's going to bring up this 127.0.0.1. It's your local host, port 8188, and we can see some options actually listed here already. Now, I usually just use the top model there to test out. I don't know of any like smaller version ones. Maybe this I think this might be the main one here. We could try this. We'll give it a shot. I haven't actually done this one before. I think for like a 780 you want to stay away from like 3.5. I don't know very much about ComfyUI, like I'll admit that right away. Like when I figured this out, it was like the first time I'd ever used it. So I very limited knowledge here. Let's just see if we can get it going. Again, oh my God, there's way more going on here than. Oh, is there like multiple workflows here? Okay, we're not even gonna mess with this. Let's just go with templates. Let's just do this one. This is the one that I've been doing. We'll download this file. It doesn't take very long. Luckily, my internet's fairly decent. So what you're going to want to do, first off, you're likely going to get an error if you don't fix the VAE decode. So actually, if we bring up here, oh yeah, one quick note, you got to leave the command prompt open. It's just going to be doing some things in the background here, and you can like check out some like errors if you get any or whatever, like will pop up in here. So if you close this, ComfyUI will no longer work. So just minimize that, keep it open. So yeah, when you first click a template, just that NetaYumi one or Yum one, you're going to see that you're missing models, and you're going to want to put this in your checkpoints folder. So this is going to actually download to your downloads folder, and in another tab, you can go into this PC, C drive. Everything is going to be in your ComfyUI Zluda for your models. So you'll go scroll down to models, checkpoints, and put checkpoints here. So when this finishes downloading, which it'll be in a couple of seconds here, we're going to move that into the checkpoints folder. And there's like other ways you can do it depending on what you're downloading, but for the most part, the ones that I've experienced, like hopefully you know more about ComfyUI than I do, and you just couldn't figure out the AMD thing because it's the blind leading the blind here otherwise. So let's bring up the File Explorer here. I'm just going to cut this and just move it entirely into here. And that's, nearly 10 gigabytes. This is why you need like a pretty good amount of space. we'll go ahead and close this. We don't need it anymore. And the model is loaded here. You don't need to do anything. And you probably won't see it in the checkpoints. You'll have to do the refresh. And now it's there. But when you run it, either way, it's going to be there. However, you can't just run it yet. You have to add, and it's in the instructions down here for first use. You need to add the CFZ cuDNN toggle. So it'll be a right click. I know it's really small. Add node, CFZ, utils, CFZ, cuDNN toggle. And then what you're going to want to do is, I always forget to do this, so I do it first. Enable cuDNN, just click it to make it false. You want that to be false. And then between the K sampler and the VA decode, you're going to want to basically like be a man in the middle. You want to intercept that. So take the latent coming from the K sampler and put it on the latent to the CFC node here. And then the output for latent goes back into where the previous K sampler was the input to VAE decode. If you don't do that, at least for me, it caused tons of issues. So I'm just going to leave the default prompt here. We're going to go ahead and click run. And the thing that's going to happen is you're going to see got prompt, which is always good. It's going to like load the model and start working right away on processing your request. But if we look at the repo, which is right here, I'm just showing you because I don't fully understand all this stuff. So the first generation will take longer than usual. Zluda is compiling your GPU. It does this once for every new model type. This is necessary and unavoidable. So my understanding is, I'm not sure what model type we're running right here. Like I know there's like the SDXL or like Stable Diffusion, or maybe Lumina is the model here. But if you reuse other workflows or other models that are based on like the same model type, you don't have to do the whole recompilation again. But if you do like two distinct model types, the first time you run it, it's going to take like 10-15 minutes because it has to do the compilation. And it'll say here, compilation is in progress, and it's going to print that like 7-8 times. And then it will start working on generating the image. So it doesn't always take this long. See, first, I think like maybe the Luma 2 is the model type here. And we're just going to let that compile. So I'm going to come back when the compilation is complete, and then we'll continue from there. All right, we are back, and we are actually going through the steps now. So if we look at the steps here, we're at 30 steps, and I guess that's what corresponds here when we see like 8 of 30, and we are going through this actually pretty quick. But let's check out the system resources. So if we go into Task Manager and we check out the GPU, so this model just about fills up the 16 that I have dedicated to it. It does have still 8 more gigabytes of shared memory, according to this, that it's willing to consume, I suppose. So we're looking at like 24 total gigabytes of storage here, but it hasn't really had to take any of the shared, and it's using pretty much all of the dedicated GPU memory right now. The compute is nearly maxed out over here. And, you know, not a lot of CPU usage. Memory is pretty good. I don't think really like this application takes much. I mean, it's one of the Firefox apps here. So yeah, overall it's looking pretty good. Like the usage is really efficient with these AMD integrated GPUs, and it's up to you whether you think that this is acceptable or not. For me, like being able to generate an image, and you know, I think this takes about like between 110 to 120 seconds after you do the first iteration. And to me, that's acceptable. There's other models that generate images in like 10 seconds that are actually pretty decent with the 780M. And even with the 680M, pretty decent images, 25 to 30 seconds. They're going to be much smaller. Like this is a 512 or 1024 by 1024, but they have 512 by 512 for some of the other models that work pretty good. So we'll let that finish up here. Let's see if I have anything else. I'll go down to, okay, so we covered all of this. We covered, that image is kind of small, but I think it gets the point across. We did all this. And okay, so final notes. Yeah, just talk about the first time generation takes a little while. You should keep using the command prompt, but after you, because it opened automatically through the install.bat, you're not going to run that again. You're going to run this ComfyUI-n.bat. So that is what you'll use. And you can even go into the folder. So if we go this PC, ComfyUI, you're just going to look for the ComfyUI-n.bat, and you can double click that to start it. You could also create, I think if we do show more options, you could create a shortcut somewhere, here, and you can put that on your desktop to make it a little bit easier to launch. But that's how you're going to launch it. It checks for updates and pull those in if there are, but there's really nothing else you need to update. And then you should, again, people that know ComfyUI better than me will know maybe what this even does. But as far as I could tell, every workflow that I did, I needed to pull that in and put it between the case sampler and the VAE decode. So likely that's just something you're going to have to do. And that's actually called out. One good thing about these instructions here is there are a lot of like, where is it? Troubleshooting. So this was the troubleshooting. This image is actually better. But I was getting this issue, and then I had to add in that CFC cuDNN toggle. There's some other issues listed down here, or things to look out. Do not use non-English characters as folder names. Yeah, if you run into anything else, just check out these. It does say like that you might need to add HIP visible devices equals 1 for integrated. I did not need to do that. In fact, it was one of the things I got caught on for a while, was that with my 680M and my 780M, this did not need to be set. And if you do set it, it's probably not going to work. It won't be able to find your GPU, and then you can either set it back to 0 or remove it altogether, and it might work again. Okay, so looks like we might, oh, it's doing the VAE decode now. So basically it'll run through the 30 steps for the K-sampler thing, shoot it through the VAE decode, and it looks like it's working on that now. So I'll bring it back when this is all done, and that'll really be the end of the tutorial. So I hope it was helpful. I know like there's a lot of steps here. Hopefully I made it pretty simple. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. If you have any models that you want me to try out or that you think I should try out, because I'm new to ComfyUI, I've been looking for some good YouTube videos. I'm not really going to do too many videos on ComfyUI specifically because I think there's a lot of people way better qualified to go over like how to use this the best way. But it's really cool to be able to do it with an AMD, and it's even cooler to be able to do it with an AMD integrated GPU. So again, I'll update the docs if that guide can be used for the 680M and the 9060 XT. The only difference is likely going to be when you go to the library files, you'll have to get the one for your GPU. But that's it. If this helped you, please subscribe. Please like the video. It helps a lot. And I'll just wait till this finishes the output, and then I'll bring you back, and then that'll be the end of the video. All right, we are back. It looks like it took 29 minutes total. It doesn't always take that long, like I said. It's usually pretty quick. So here is the image. And if you go to the queue, you also see it here. So 1777 seconds. Now again, you can just hit run, and this one will be much faster. Like if we look at the prompt, it's immediately starting to go through those steps. And you'll actually see there's like a progress bar that shows in the K sampler as each step progresses. That little bar is there, so you don't necessarily have to watch it. There's also some percents up there. I don't know what the 56% is, but the 3% appears to be the generation of the model. And yeah, you can always click to see the larger version of it. And that's it. So again, hopefully this was helpful, and I'm going to be doing a lot more videos with AI and mini PCs and AMD, as well as NVIDIA. There's going to be a ton of NVIDIA stuff as well. But if you're interested in and AMD stuff or just AI stuff in general, a lot of automation stuff like N8N, definitely subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.